Hi everyone, Eric DeGatti here from One Human Performance. Today we're going to talk about 7 simple steps to write any training program. I've always believed as a trainer, my job is to make you as independent as possible and to hopefully make myself obsolete. It's based on the old proverb that if you give a man a fish, you will feed him for the day, but if you teach him to fish, you will feed him for life. So let's go through these 7 simple steps to write any training program. The first most important thing is your goal. As Dan John brilliantly once said, keep the goal the goal. And unfortunately, a lot of trainers base their training programs based on their own preferences and likes or their own training program. I need to know what it is that you need to accomplish and specifically why you want to accomplish that. Everything is going to be based off of that. Our second element is time. And time breaks into 2 different ways. Number 1, how much time do we have to get to this goal? Do we have 1 month until that beach vacation? Do we have 6 weeks until your season starts? How much time do we have to accomplish this? Because that's going to adjust a few things in terms of how much levity we're going to give you in your program. The second thing with time is how much time do you actually have to execute the program? I can write the greatest program in the world that takes you 4 days a week and an hour each workout to do, but if you only have 3 days a week and 45 minutes, that program is useless. So I need to know exactly how much time you can dedicate to this program in and out the door. The next big one is movement. So let's look at that a little bit. Every exercise is going to be derivative of some basic pattern of movement. There's lots of different ways you can break this down. At FMS, we look at these 7 patterns that we have tests for. If you look at Paul Chek's primal and pattern system, he has all different patterns that you look at. Juan Carlos Santana has his own system. Shirley Sarman has her own system. Basically, everything we do breaks into certain movements, so we're going to look at them into these primary categories. This is what I like to use. We have push, pull, and twist for upper body, which is basically pushing, pulling, and twist is a combination of the both. Squat, lunge, and bend are your primary lower body patterns, as well as stepping or single leg work. And then gait is walk, jogging, and running. And we need to know what phases of those need to be part of your program. Now, some movements, some exercises you do will be combinations of these 2 things. If you do a bent over row, you're getting a bend and a pull. So I just use this as my checklist to make sure that when I'm writing a program that I've addressed all these patterns. If I've addressed all these patterns, I don't have to worry a whole lot about parts. Parts is more for bodybuilding, parts is more for rehab when I have specific deficiencies. But in terms of just training functionally, if I get all these patterns in, I can pretty much assure you that all your muscles have been addressed. Now, from here, once I know what movements I'm going to get in, how am I going to break that up? And so a subsection of that is how am I going to format that, and am I going to do any type of training split? Am I going to do the old school bodybuilding back and bis and chest and tris, which quite frankly, 99% of the population does not need to do and it doesn't apply. And then when I write my program, I can format it one of 3 ways. I can have it as a old school station program where I'm going to squat, I'm going to recover, and then I'm going to squat again. Then I have a compound station where I can do 1 or 2 or 3 or even 4 or 5 exercises in a cluster where I'm going to squat, and then immediately after that I'm going to go say, let's do a chin-up. All right, those are where we're compounding, or what some people call supersetting. Last is a circuit where I take all the exercises I'm going to do today and put them in a list. I start at the top and I don't stop until I get to the bottom, and then possibly have a rest at the end of that. Now, once you have that established, everything else writes for itself. This here is based on the individual. I can't tell you what your goal is. I can't dictate how much time you can dedicate to this. And your movement, somewhat, you're going to tell me as well, because maybe you don't have the capacity to squat and you don't have that movement competency, so I may have to adjust that, and that may be a more of a corrective issue than a conditioning issue. But once we have that established, all the rest is just exercise science, okay? And basic exercise science tells you the reps is the #1 determining factor in what's going to create your result. So if I do low repetitions and I'm in the 1 to 3 range, I'm going to get very, very strong. I won't build lots of work capacity, okay, and I won't build too much muscle, but I will get very strong. Whereas at the high end, if I'm doing 15 to 20 reps, I'll get lots of local muscular endurance, I'll get great work capacity, I won't get very strong. So unless I know what your goal is, I don't know what to set the reps or the work time at. So even if I'm doing sprint intervals, if I'm looking to get really good short burst speed, I need to do great short burst work. Not that I couldn't benefit from some over distance work, but I still need to make sure that the reps match the goal. Then from there, the inverse relationship is sets. If I'm doing lots of high reps, I can't be doing lots of sets. Sets is your total volume. So if you totaled up all the sets you're gonna do for the day, 4 exercises, 3 sets each, that's gonna be 12 sets of volume, all right? With that, I also have to consider what else is going on, not just within my training program, but within my life. If this is an in-season program, and I'm going to be doing lots of competitive level work, I have to turn back the volume a little bit. If it is an off-season program, and this is my primary focus, I can crank that up a little bit. I also have to adjust that based on your physiological state. Super stressed out, overworked, and overburdened people don't respond real well to volume. And I will have people that'll come in after doing a program 3 weeks in a row and say, oh my God, what did we do this week? I am so sore. And it had nothing to do with the program because it didn't happen the last couple weeks. What happened was that it wasn't the seeds, it was the soil. It was the physiological state that you're in. Maybe you're fighting off a cold, or maybe you're overstressed at work, and now you can't handle the same volume that you did last week. From there, we look at rest. How much rest are we taking in between sets? Am I taking long periods of rest because I'm looking to build strength and power and I need my ATP to completely recycle and be ready to go again? Or am I taking real short rest because I want more of a conditioning effect or a metabolic effect? And that also has to match what I'm doing here. The real low reps work better with real long rests. So your typical power lifter, you can always tell at the gym, they're the ones with the newspaper because they do a set and they're waiting 3 to 5 minutes between sets. Last but certainly not least and often overlooked is tempo. Tempo is how fast am I moving, okay? And we're usually dictating that in a 4-number sequence. So we have, first is your eccentric or your lowering. Second is your pause. Third is your concentric or your lifting. And then the fourth is your pause again. So if I were to do a press and I were to do a bench press and I did a 4-1-1-1, it would be 4, 3, 2, 1, 1 second pause, 1 second up, 1 second pause. Once you have all those, you can basically write a program at any point. Now, the next thing to consider is everybody talks about we need to change it up or we need variability, we need to shock the body. Nonsense, okay? Unless your goal or your time has changed or your ability to do movement has changed, you don't need to change that many variables. Okay, you could just change one variable and get a huge training effect from doing that. Now, how often do I change those variables? I change them based on what is your training age. People who've been training a long time adapt much quicker. I'm gonna switch their program every 2 to 3 weeks. Your neophytes who are just starting out, I could do the same program for 6 to 8 weeks and still get great results. But when I do change your program, I can change one simple thing. I can switch it from a station program down to a compound or circuit workout, and now the workout is completely changed. I can change up which squat you're doing and make a great training result. But I don't want to change it up too much that I don't ever get good enough at these movements that I get the desired effect. So once you have all this here, you have the ability to write any training program for the rest of your life. Always go back to this. When I'm brought in as a consultant to look at people's programs, I'm working with a high school football program right now, and they said, what do you think of our program? This is the checklist I put it up against. If you show me that your goal is strength and power, but you're doing all sets of 10 to 15 reps, the goal doesn't match the programming. So hopefully that helps you write your next program, not just for tomorrow, but for the rest of your life. Enjoy and best of luck.